you have nearly half of the continent without access of daily electricity, relying on a toxic and expensive diesel generator or unstable grid. And I was feeling that it's a huge continent, 54 countries, huge country, huge superficie, and there is a lot of people that are just expecting to have some electricity, and it's impacting as well the local economy. And it's one of the Minister of Environment or Economy from South Africa that say earlier this year that economy does not grow in the dark. So if you don't have power, you can't grow economy. Local economy need electricity power to start to blossom.
Guillaume, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Peter. Hello, and thanks to host me on your podcast.
Amazing. I'm glad to have you here. Guillaume, where should we start? You actually set yourself a quite big mission in placing all those diesel generators and lighting up more than 300 million homes by 2030. How did you come with the idea? Where did this come from?
Yeah, so everything started 2 years ago with executive MBA classmate of mine. We were doing the Hult prize that it's every year it's running, and it's a competition, kind of a entrepreneurship competition. And we decided together, the three of us, to participate in it. And one of the guy was working in a logistic company, and we wanted to do something about solar and battery to give independence and autonomy to people. And actually, through his work, he got the idea why we don't put everything in a container. And at this time, we thought that it was a great idea and that we were the first on the market. But after a little bit of research and benchmarking, we realized that we were not the only one. But still, the idea was great. We were sitting during 1 year after the competition. We got good feedback and time to finish a little bit as well the MBA. Since a year now, I took over the idea and I'm running it and try to make it live since a year.
So that's quite a big mission. It's a typical startup journey, right? It's ups and downs. And in the audience who don't know, you're based out of Shanghai, which gives you quite an edge, right? Being in China, being able to source the components locally. Can you give us a tangent on how that actually works? How does one find a supplier? If he has an idea, how does the whole process work in China?
Yeah. So as you say, it's really one of the chance I have to be located in China. It's still the factory of the world, even though after COVID, people were trying to change a little bit and shift to have this China plus one practice. And here around Shanghai, it's kind of a cluster of development for solar sector and as well for the battery. So it's pretty interesting. And for me, like being located in Shanghai, I take a train in less than 5 hours. I can visit a lot of factories, do a lot of audit. And there is a lot as well of exhibition or fair that help as well to make connection. And each time in those fairs, you can have like 200 suppliers there. So after you have to filter the one that you want closer to me because time is essence as well. And yeah, the most important thing for me is to be here, easy to visit them, easy to connect during fair and exhibition as well, which give me a lot of advantages on that. And after you unfold all the, let's say the recipe of being an entrepreneur, find supplier, qualify them. And on the other hand, there is as well the customer part or investors, depending on what we want to do. But it's really like a multi-channel of work as an entrepreneur.
For sure. I mean, every entrepreneur, especially at the beginning, wears 10, 15 different hats. So that's quite difficult to juggle. And what you actually mentioned about the suppliers, China is obviously producing 90+% of any solar component in the world. And when it comes to that, of course, there are different tiers, right? We discussed before the show. So there are different suppliers, different tiers. Of course, everybody's trying to pitch their product, even if it's better or worse. How do you actually filter out the good ones from the bad ones? And how do you make sure that you actually work with the right team?
Yeah, so there is one thing that we discussed previously before the recording, that there is this Bloomberg tier 1 list that is pretty famous around the world, and everybody are always wanting this kind of supplier. We want tier 1 supplier. We want Bloomberg list. And this is something that people may not know, but to be qualified in this list, you need to pay some fee. And then there is an audit and you need to be qualified on it. So it's a willing and investment to get in this list, but it's not really a fair qualification on that. And there is many suppliers that can get the right quality to get the CE certification for the European Union at a good quality. And that would work perfectly. And you may have less trouble because once you get labeled with this Bloomberg list, it's kind of a shield for you. You say, hey, I'm Bloomberg list. So even if you deliver sometime a lower quality, you will still be behind this list. And that people always say, oh, my supplier is in the list. And I know very good suppliers, not as fancy as those tier one, that are doing a very good quality, very stable quality, which is important when you want to go in mass production or deliver widely your product. So that's kind of a feeling that you need to have and connect and go to visit as well to get a good average situation of what is the state of the art in the production, on the quality control, etc. So yeah, you need to be careful about what the labels say and what it gives behind, because there is always this commercial aspect that you need to take care of.
For sure. I mean, marketing is always key, right? If you market yourself, you might not have the best product, but you might have the biggest reach. So that works for many companies.
Exactly, and not just in solar industry, everywhere.
Yeah, indeed. And since we are talking about the suppliers, how would one actually start looking for these suppliers? Is it typically an outreach, online, offline, and then in-person meetings? Because I appreciate in Asia, the personal relationship really goes a long way, and you need to know people to get to the right people.
Yeah, true. And now with this era of AI and all those deep fake or whatever, you have to bet on the offline meeting and meet people face to face. So it's always good to start online to get few information, brochure, catalog, or like the website. But as soon as you can, you need to go into a call, or if possible, to come to visit, because there is only one truth, and the only truth is the real world. So you can't go 100% online. You can start online, but as soon as you can, you need to go offline to check by yourself, because there is a lot of lies as well. And that's part of the marketing and the commercial part, to oversell the quality, oversell the services. And that's a big risk at the end, because if your product is at default, it's not the supplier name that is on your product, it's your name. So you pay the hard price on your reputation and on the brand image as well. So this is really, really important to select carefully your suppliers.
Makes perfect sense. We were talking a little bit about this clustering in China. So can you explain us how this cluster of manufacturing works? Because it's quite a unique idea, which I don't think we really have a parallel to in Europe, because we are a little bit all over the place in terms of logistics and thinking about like building from top down a really like long supply chain. How does that work in China? How is it built around cities, etc.?
Yeah, so I think it was really at the top level of the management in the country, to select and to be able to spread a little bit workload all over the country. So one of the very core competence in China is the steel industry. And there is like different regions that are specialized in the steel production. Same for the car manufacturing. You will have Shanghai is one area, Shanghai and the provinces around Beijing, a little bit north part of Beijing. You have Wuhan in the center of China, and Guangdong region as well. So you have those 4 or 5 clusters of production for the automotive industry. And that's the same after for, let's say, the phone production. It's more in the Guangdong province, or the textile. All the fabrics are more in the south part of China. And for solar panel, batteries, everything that is about renewable, you have around Shanghai. You have a little bit in the province around Beijing, and as well some other isolated cluster, but they try to spread it all over to be able to, I think it's a question of labor work to give to everyone all over the country. So that's good as well, because it makes a lot of competition. It's a very competitive market. China itself is almost as big as Europe, if not bigger. So they have to manage the world surface cover in the country with different kind of technologies, and they progress a lot. It's 15 years I'm here in China, and I saw really the leapfrog on technology, on innovation, and this is not the same China that we used to talk about 15 years ago.
And perhaps what do you think we could learn from this in Europe, in France, and both the whole EU as a whole, in terms of setting up, structuring the country, structuring industries, and setting it up a little bit more efficiently?
Yeah, that's an excellent question because for me, China is very agile country. So what I learned and I experienced it a bit the hard way during my few previous years in corporation and leading projects is that if there is a problem, they are ready to solve the problem, creating another problem, but you continue to go forward. And what is very interesting in their way to manage the work is that we never stop. You can slow down, you can do baby step, but you don't stop and you never go backward. So it's progressing slowly, sometimes faster, but it's always going forward. And this is something that is, for me, I try to apply it. I never stop, ever be blocked by something. And if I have to solve it and create something, another problem, I go for it because anyway, if you don't have problem, that's the biggest problem you have. You need to have problem to go further and continuously improving. And this is really my big takeaway on the way they are working in China is you need to always go forward. You never stop. You always continuously work.
Well, that's a good mindset to have. You know, it's if it still moves slowly, it's still forward, as you mentioned. So that's something that's a key takeaway that we could also apply here in Europe for sure. You know, something that's always in the news and something that's really hot in solar is always thinking about manufacturing, making modules here in Europe. And I spoke to a good friend of mine, Dr. Radovan Kopesek. He's from ISC Constance, and he's really an expert on manufacturing. His idea or key takeaway is that the things that we shipped off to China to be manufactured, we could potentially license those factory layouts to those technologies back to Europe. So we are able to produce at least enough for our own consumption. So maybe even up to 100 gigawatts a year, which would be fantastic, of course, because we also want to be self-reliant in this crazy world of geopolitics. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, there is now it seems that how we say the knowledge now is going in two way. Before it was a lot from Western countries going to share what they know, their know-how about the production, the supply chain, and etc. But now they have a lot of very competent engineers, very brilliant, and they catch up with all the technology. And there is a lot of science that is going on the other direction now. And this is probably where there is a lot to do as well in the Europe, as we are both European, to try to catch up to stay in the competition. Otherwise, we will just be all the time behind if we are not catching this up. And there is a lot of things on the supply chain efficiency. For sure, our costs are higher. But if we don't work to improve on it and sit just watching what happened, the waves just hitting our face, nothing will change. And that's that the gap will be bigger and bigger every year.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, we need to do a little bit more active problem solving, and then, on the commission level, there are some programs available and trying to help, production, but we still need to focus and buckle down a little bit and pick up some speed. And maybe let's segue into the market. So your core target audience or core target market is Africa. Why Africa? What is the key selling point there? Where would be the biggest opportunities?
Yeah, so for me, it's Africa. It's really purpose-wise. You have nearly half of the continent without access of daily electricity, relying on a toxic and expensive diesel generator or unstable grid. And I was feeling that it's a huge continent, 54 countries. I think, if it's not or 52 or 54, a huge country, huge superficie, and there is a lot of people that are just expecting to have some electricity, and it's impacting as well the local economy. And it's one of the minister of environment or economy, I think, from South Africa that say earlier this year that economy does not grow in the dark. So if you don't have power, you can't grow economy. Local economy need electricity power to start to blossom, right? That's the basic needs for a region, for a village to have things. So it can be with education, to have kids that can have bigger dreams. It can be like rural entrepreneurs that can start the first machine, or the clinics that can keep the vaccines clean as well. So there is a lot of ecosystem that can be just encourage and push forward for the economy as well. So that's a very important point about electricity, and that's vital for the development.
Indeed. And I actually attended a conference last year, and they were talking about Africa extensively. So they are also trying to boost not just the mining, but also the refinement there locally. So they would actually be able to utilize those natural resources that they have. And the second key takeaway was that they're expecting Africa to be like with the phones, right? So there was never a landline in Africa. They just jumped straight to the smartphone. So I think with the electricity generation as well, I think hopefully they can also jump directly to a cleaner source of energy, focusing on solar because they have plenty of space as well. And then solutions like yours can really solve that problem. So I think that's a huge opportunity as well that we can tap into.
Yeah, yes, indeed. And that's the famous leapfrog of technology, to use what we learned from the, let's say, previous energy system that we had in Europe, for example, and not repeat the same mistake. For example, we have seen the blackout in Spain, in Portugal in April or March, right? So that's a good lesson as well to learn. So for decentralized power, and not have, and to have a smart system with the emergence of AI as well, to be able to monitor clusters of energy within a city or within a neighborhood, to give this kind of intelligence to supply energy by neighborhood or small cluster, but as well connected them to help if one is broken or if there is a blackout. The other one can supply a little bit of energy for the, let's say, the critical mode for hospital, for example, or for telecommunication, just time to repair everything. And at least you are not like blacked out like it was in Spain. So there is a lot of things to do, and it will be progressive as well. You can't come with the state of the art technology at once, because you need to increase progressively. This is what I think as well.
Yeah, and of course, those are all huge unmet needs, and that's going to help communities, progress faster and have a more stable grid. But I guess on the product level, this requires a couple of components, right? You need to have the right hardware, you need to have the right logistics, and you also need to have the right software to kind of govern all of those components. So how do you approach that with Sunwise? What is unique about the product?
So yeah, the product is like, you have solar panel and you have inverters, batteries, and software to do the remote control. So those technologies are very well managed and produced here in China. So based on that, after the maintenance and everything on that, it's not, I would say, not that complicated, right? On the paper, it's always simple. But then when you come to the real world, logistic can be a lot of delay because of some paperwork, as everywhere in the world. I guess administration is pretty famous for that. So you can have issue where you didn't expect to have issue, and you can have a lot of delay on that. And there is, for me, two parts. It's not about the sourcing itself of the product, because it's pretty reliable right now. We could consider almost solar panel and batteries are commodities, because the technology is pretty well developed, even though we know that we will have some breakthroughs in the 5 next years that can improve as well the capacity or downsize it. But for me, the real unexpected things can happen in the logistic, as I say, but as well in the financing. Financing is really critical. With the withdrawal of US aid, it creates a big void that has not been filled by others. So it probably delay a little bit all the project and all the target that has been fixed for 2030. But it's question of resilience. So when there is a will, there is a way, right? So that's a thing that is probably need a little time to adapt. And I'm sure next year it will be much better. We will gain in velocity to install those mini grids or other renewable energy across the continent.
And you mentioned a couple of keywords here, one of them being financing. So how does one actually sell a project like this in Africa? Because I appreciate it. It's not the most well-funded countries or continents, actually. And, what is kind of the structure behind, who is the buyer, who is actually paying for the product in your case?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, because this is something very complicated, and it comes to what they call the blended finance, right? So there is several level of financiers. So you can have NGOs that would select a program or a project to help on it and participate in some percentage of the financing. Then you can have institutions. So you have pretty famous institutions like Rockefeller Foundation or other foundation. You have as well Sustainable Energy for All, or what there is again to MADA, Africa Mini Grid Development Association. There is few things like these, few institutions that can help as well in the financing. Then you have the development bank. So you have World Bank, African Development Bank, you have a new development bank. There is few of them that can help and finance as well the project. Then you have the local bank that would help probably to give some loan for the buyers and help to spread the expenses and not to be an upfront capex, but to transform it in a kind of opex on a loan on a 10 or 15 years. And finally, the last one that I forget, it's investors, mobile investors. You can have VCs or business angel or those kind of other kind of investment that can help. When you have all these kinds of, it's 4 or 5 categories of investment that you can have, and they can be all together on the same project. So it's complicated. What I feel is complicated is the alignment of the schedule for all of them. And some will be able to release the fund and others are still discussing. And this is what makes it very complicated. And you may have a schedule longer than what you expect because of the financing part. But once you get the fund, it can be pretty fast, I would say. It's part of after execute all the project on the design, procurement and construction and commissioning as well.
And I mean, that actually raises a question in my head of how do you actually find the right labor in Africa for this? I assume it requires some sort of specialized labor in terms of, building the foundation and making sure that it's structured the right way so it can operate, without touching it too much. And the second question is, how is the operation and maintenance going to be solved?
Yeah, that's another good question. You are full of good questions, Peter. So there is two things to approach that. There is the traditional mini grid, because my business is about the mini grid, which requires, as you say, some qualified labor like electrician, construction, some after less qualified to install the solar panel. And this is where it's difficult because you will need different core competencies to run your project and execute it. While if you have a containerized solution like I have, everything is pre-installed, pre-tested, and pre-wired in factory by competent people here. And then when you ship it, you have just a lower qualification labor that you need to install it. It's just to take out the solar panel. And you will need an electrician to make the final connection because the solar panel are already all connected together. You just need to connect to the inverter, the battery if there is one, and distribution box or to the load that you want to feed. So it's help to lower the qualification, which is easier after, even though I know that there is very good qualified electrician, but the purpose is always to control the cost and to be able to install it very fast. So that's something that is very profitable as well, to have this kind of all-in-one solution that I propose.
Yeah, and I mean, we were chatting before the show as well about, Tesla Megapacks, etc. Those are working on a similar principle, that you have modular design, modular production, and then you actually ship it to the location that it's needed at, and then you have minimal or marginal amount of work of hooking it up, maybe to the grid or to other sources, and then you actually can reduce the costs and then also the problems that you might have if you had to do everything on site, right?
Yeah, that's true. As everything is previously done on the factory, you have less pressure. Everything can be controlled and tested before, so you know that it works. And once it arrives on site, you just have to worry about the installation, and the commissioning would be very fast because we know already that it's working, which is not possible to do with like traditional mini grid. When you install 300 or even more solar panels, you have to test at the end, and if it's not working, you need to retro engineer to know to find where is the problem, which is more difficult. That can lose a lot of time and create a lot of delay in the project, in the payment, and a lot of frustration at the end.
And which countries are you primarily focused on in Africa for the first stage?
Yeah, so I selected 2 countries in West Africa, Senegal and Ivory Coast, that are French-speaking country, and obviously being French, it would be easier. And I made a good connection with one business developer, Majid, that will help to make all those local presence to create trust with potential clients, but as well all institutions for financing, local bank, government, or local energy provider or program developers. And then I have 2 country targeted in East Africa, Zambia and Tanzania, with 2 other persons, Philip and Dixon. And they are as well themselves entrepreneurs. They are in the agrotech and irrigation. And what make us to come together is that They are really good as well on the solar sector, and we might have overlapping things that can help to promote each other solution.
Yeah, of course. I mean, because especially like Kenya, Tanzania, they are a little bit more advanced markets, right? They already have some larger solar installations as well. So everybody's trying to kind of follow the lead of South Africa, because there obviously you have quite a lot going on already, both on the utility scale CNI market and also a little bit on the community solar side. And I think that's definitely the right direction to go to.
Yeah. True. There is South Africa, and there is as well Kenya. That Kenya is one of the leading country in the energy transitioning. So those both countries are probably pulling all the region around them. So it's a very competitive as well market, East Africa, and so that's to test as well what is the traction on both sides of Africa, and see how we can after deploy on the rest of the country and scaling region by region. That's the plan on the paper again, and let's see what the practice will give.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's how it usually works. And Guillaume, you just came back from a startup competition. So can you give us an idea how that went? You know, you were doing quite a lot of preparation. How does this actually help entrepreneurs like you?
Yeah. So it was like it's called Estron Shanghai. So it was a kind of innovator startup event on the two last days, on the Tuesday and Wednesday. So it was 3rd and 24th of September. So I had the occasion to have a booth and to exhibit a little bit my solution. So it created a lot of traffic. A lot of people were interested to know, because I was the only one with this kind of solution. So I got some investors coming that were interested, incubator, accelerator, students as well that were very curious about the solution. And it was really nice. And as I explained you before, a lot of traffic. I'm not used to see so many people at once. Very exhausting, but when you get the passion, to explain what you are doing, it's always really rewarding at the end. And it was a pitch competition as well. So for me, it was a good occasion to test a little bit what I have in my gut, and how I could transfer my passion to the jury. It was very short, 3 minutes to convince, and it went pretty well. I'm satisfied, and I got good feedback about the clarity of the structure of my pitch, and that was a good experience. A lot of stress, but I realized that this is what I need to go further and faster.
Yeah, diamonds are created under pressure, so that.
Yeah, let's hope.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, these events can really be very conducive for everybody, because, especially since COVID, I feel that it goes such a long way to meet people face to face, and to be able to, have a more like informal discussion as well, to talk about other things that you would not have been talking about online. And I think it's really important to meet, and, some local things, or the moment actually triggers your thoughts in a different way, that you will be sitting in front of the computer and just talking to each other on a Zoom link.
Yeah, true. And what is very powerful, it's actually, I managed to meet a few people that I was connected on LinkedIn with, I never met, and they had a booth there. So it was for us the good occasion to meet for the first time. It was a lot of international startup that were there as well. And it's always good to see what others propose, what kind of business models they can have, or how they approach the market. Because as entrepreneur, we all have the same problem at the end. Whatever you are selling, services, hardware, software, it's first how do you find clients, and how you convert those leads into real clients and contract. So it's always good to get inspiration from others, how they are approaching, and see how you can adapt for your market and be a little bit disruptive on this approach. So I'm a fan to know to meet entrepreneur when whatever they are doing, because they always have a good story and probably good insight to share as well.
For sure. I mean, we can always learn. The way I approach this is I can learn two things from everybody: how to do things and how not to do things. Those are the two key lessons that you can learn from everybody.
Oh yes. And you save time, that to not make mistake that the others share with you, it's always much better after. Huh?
Yeah, it saves a lot of time and hassle. That's really valuable. And
yeah,
when it comes to the setup of the product and the modular solar in general, do you see this as staying niche in the next 10 years, or do you think that this could become a kind of a mainstream source of delivering power?
Renewable energy for sure will be like a mass source of energy somehow, in a way or in another. future, then depending on what would be the product, and I see a lot of different kind of innovation in the solar, or not just in the solar, but renewable energy. You can have like different kind of wind energy, different kind of solar energies. I'm proposing a container one, but someone will propose something smaller, more adaptive for people in a household, right? So it really depends, but I think that it will be, let's say, the renewable energy will become mainstream for sure. After, the way you apply it, what is the technology behind, that would be different and really specific to the use you have, because the use for a community will not be the same than for a small enterprise or for a big company or for a government, right? So I think that will be a space for everyone with different technology. The most important is to try to get something that is not polluting, and yeah, I see that it moving. It will take a little bit time to get the momentum, but once it will be in the mindset of people, it might be very fast to unfold, and that would be really nice to see what people will propose or what company will develop on it.
For sure. And I mean, I think money always speaks for itself, right? We already have with solar the cheapest source of energy most around most of the world. So that's going to help us, push this and the adoption completely to the mainstream. And with the new technologies coming out, I think a 1% increase in the efficiency of the modules can really translate into huge production increases as well. So that's going to help us build the case as well, that if you look back 10 years ago, how much did the module cost and what was its output, and today what does a module cost and what is the output. So they are two different graphs going in different directions. So we just need to find a way to build smarter, better products around them.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. You're totally right, and that's always the same. That's always the same case. When you have a new product, it starts first. People reject it. Look at the electric vehicles, right? It was rejected before. Then high price. Then it start to be adopted. Lower price, and then it's become to be like a mainstream product. And you get now some cars that have the better performance than Porsche car, lower than $30,000, right? So this is something that's the same for energy. It will become the same.
Yeah, I mean, economies of scale helps build more efficient markets. And, on the electric car side of things, I was doing a lot of digging around this, and I read somewhere that actually the first cars were already electric at the beginning of the 20th century, but then it just made more business sense to kind of build a bundle, right? To build the combustion engine plus the oil, because then it's an easier business case to basically squeeze more money out of it. But around Ford's time, the first car was already electric, so then it just got abandoned because there was a better opportunity to be making money elsewhere.
Oh yes, that's this is where most of people say the timing is really important. You can have the best idea, but you are not in the good time, not good era for the electric vehicle. It was 1 century after that it has been developed, and yeah, and this is where there is a piece of advice I received: never fall in love with your idea. Be ready to pivot very quickly. So it's this kind of fail fast and learn, fail fast and adapt quick, or something like that. So you need to be very agile again, fall down, get on your feet, and start again to run.
Indeed. And is there any particular book that you would recommend to the audience that you really like and that helped you in your entrepreneurial journey?
So I'm reading a lot of those books, and the one that I liked, because I don't have a good memory with pages, and each time I read a page I forget about it. But one book that was very cool, it was Clockwork. So how to make your business automatic without you, that you could, for example, take 3 weeks of vacation. So it helped a lot on breaking down all your essential tasks. What is the main essential things that you need to address or that you are serving, and how you break down all those elements till you manage to automate most of it, and to be able to delegate, to be able to take automatic decision. This is something I really love it, because I have an engineer background and I like to understand what I am doing, and I go sometimes very much in detail, too much most of the time, but it helped me to understand and to be able to find a way to win time. And that's for me, again, the most important thing. Being an entrepreneur, you need to be very fast, to have a lot of velocity in taking decision, in going forward, selecting suppliers, finding clients, converting, etc. And that's Clockwork's book was pretty interesting on that.
Yeah, we will link in the show notes to that for sure. And one book that I would recommend is definitely Tim Ferriss' 4 Hour Work Week. That's also along the lines of that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, that's exactly the same thing. And a second book actually that just came into mind that's very important in my case, it's the culture map. Because being in China since 15 years, I was hit pretty strongly about the cultural difference that we have from Europe, France, and China. And if I would have read this book when I arrived, I think I would have made much less mistakes than I have did. And this is really good things to understand how people generally are thinking or behaving, to be able to reflect a little bit and take shortcut how to win confidence and how to deal as well with business and understand how it's done and how to talk. And this cultural map was really, really enlightening as well.
And I mean, every country, every continent behaves a little bit differently, both business and culture-wise. And if you can adapt to that, that can really help you, break some barriers quicker,
Yes.
faster, and better.
Yes, exactly.
And on that note, Guillaume, if you had one ask to the audience, what type of people would you like to meet? Who would you like to speak to for Sunwise?
For Sunwise, there is, I think, more of end users because I'm doing a lot of, I'm talking with a lot of people from LinkedIn because this is where it's my mainstream to talk with people and make connection. But that would be the main user to really understand better what are their needs, what are the blocking points, and see how they would imagine the best solution for them to elevate their condition, right? Because we are talking about people that don't have electricity. So it means no cell phone, no Netflix, no YouTube, no computer every day, right? So imagine yourself 24 hours without this. And that's a good exercise as well. Think about yourself
It would be
without
amazing.
energy yeah, I'm living in the 18th floor. So without energy, I have to do back and forth 18 stairs flights. So just already this, it's a lot of pain in the legs, at least. So yeah. So what is it to help those people to get this energy? And as we said, it's behind energy, it's local economy, it's help kids to unlock their potential, it's healthcare, eradicate diseases, and it's as well to boost those entrepreneurs that have probably very beautiful and innovative ideas, but that they can't go further because they don't have enough power to run their machines.
I mean, what I read the other day is that the most time-consuming activity in some African countries is the fact that they actually need to go and fetch water every day. So that means that the women are walking, fetching water, and then they cannot go to school because it takes a long time. You need to walk sometimes hours. If you have electricity, you can have a well, you can have a pump that pumps that water, so that could help a lot. And you can go to school instead of fetching water.
Yeah, for sure. We don't know that because we are really privileged being European. We didn't know all this kind of hustle to just to survive. It's not to live, it's to survive, right? And that put into perspective a lot of things that we need to reconsider and put ourselves in the shoes of the people like they are running kilometers to get water or to get food or not being able to go to school or those things. And that's not fair, right? And this is as well something that's very important. It's to not have energy as a privilege, but to transform it into a right. And everybody should have access to electricity or power, right?
Indeed, that's a noble mission to have. On that note, what would be the right way to reach out to you in case somebody is interested in partnerships, potentially buying the product, etc.?
Yeah, so I have mostly I'm super active on LinkedIn, so they can find me with my name and surname. Otherwise, the container guy, that's easier to remember than my family name. That even French people they don't know how to pronounce because it's pretty complicated. So if they type in the search bar the container guy, I should appear like probably in the first 5 proposition.
Yeah, and we will definitely link to the show notes below and both the link and also your name so people can find you easier. But Guillaume, any final thoughts that
Sure.
that we haven't covered?
Maybe something that when I realized it's more or less 1 year that I have started this, created the startup, and what I realized that is really important, and this is linked with what we say before, it's network. Without network, you are nothing. And I would encourage any entrepreneur that want to start a business to network as much as they can, to contact people that feel they would need or they would be interested, and don't be shy, just go for them. Most of the time, people are super happy when you go to you contact them and say, hey, I see what you have done, it's really interesting, I would like to know a little bit more about I don't know how you deploy your facilities in the desert, or how you are using financing. Do you use a specific financing case? And people love to talk because it's cool when you have someone that asks that like reward you saying, oh, what you are doing is great, can you explain me more? I think nobody refuse, right? So that's the main thing I would start better. If I have to restart, it's to network as much as I can from the beginning.
Yeah, and if you need to come prepared and with good questions, that's the thing that I would add to it. Come with good questions, and people will definitely be happy to help you with that.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, and that's a lifetime project, right? It's you will improve anyway, but you need to start somehow, and don't be shy. Don't think about judgment or whatever. Anyways, this is what I explain sometimes to people about LinkedIn. Like, okay, one person refused to talk to you. There is 1 billion more people on LinkedIn that you can connect. So it's not important. It's just one step that you miss, and you have a marathon behind this. So it's thousands of steps that you can do properly. So this is a real mindset that I changed recently this last year to not be ashamed, not be shy, and okay, I made a mistake. Okay, I will learn and I will improve.
It's definitely not a sprint, but rather a marathon. So I think that's going to be very useful for everyone.
True, and not just about energy, about everything. Everything is a marathon, right?
Your business is just one part of your life, but it shouldn't be, the only part of your life. So it shouldn't control what you do every single moment. So we only have one life, and we need to use it wisely.
Exactly, and that's another part that is very important to balance your time. First, sleep. It's very important, and this is something I have a lot of room to improve about sleep, and then family and friends. It's as well important sometimes to disconnect from the work just to recharge and to reset the mindset as well. So yeah, as you mentioned, it's very important to not just live for your work, as there is a life outside an office, and that's worth it as well.
But Guillaume, on that note, thank you very much for your time and for sharing your knowledge. Wishing you best of luck with Sunwise, and let's keep in touch.
Yeah, thank you, Peter, very much. It was very nice to be in the podcast. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye.